Main one that I'll talk about because it's finitoed after 20 hours. Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in
Oh,
Hawaii. Absolutely
how did you?
blitzed the living balls out of that game towards the end of it. Um, so when we last spoke a couple of weeks ago, I just made it to the area known as Madlantis. Weirdly enough, you spend about 5 minutes in Madlantis and then have to go elsewhere. So you don't
Mm,
spend a lot of time there until probably a little bit later on in the game, even though the
right.
vast majority of the story is all centered around stuff that's going to happen there. In fact, the most area that you end up playing in is Hawaii because repurpose it from Infinite Wealth. Why not? It's
Right.
RGG Studios are very good at that. They take old areas, they basically reuse their assets, which is why they can turn games around very, very quickly.
Right.
I've got no issue
Makes
with that
sense.
as well.
Yeah.
Combat is very fun. Really enjoyed how fluid it was. The addition of the aerial combats actually made did make it a little bit more interesting. Although they programmed the jump button to be the same as the dash button, which does make it very very difficult, especially
Oh,
when it
right.
comes to the fact that during combat you have an attack that can't really be dodged, but it can be counterattacked, and the only way that you can do so is by pressing X, which is the same as dash and jump.
Right.
So makes it a little bit difficult because of obviously the timing implications of it. Still
Yeah.
very satisfying when you do get that. It plays very much like a traditional, like a Dragon slash Yakuza game where you spend money to upgrade your skills, spend money to deal with deal with all things on your ship, which is great. The ship combat is very fun, especially when you get to the Pirate Coliseum, where the vast majority of what you'll be doing is ship combat. So you'll go out onto into an arena. You have to take them down using the cannons and the machine guns and various other tactics whilst avoiding them. Then you get to once they're down to 0 HP, you then board them and
Mm.
fight them like fight the crew
Oh,
in
that's cool.
basically hand to hand combat until you take out
Yeah.
their full team. And actually, that was probably the most fun within the game. It was very similar to how the Colosseum was in um, like a Dragon Gaiden and the Man Who Raised His Name, except it was, ship combat rather than actual hand to hand combat.
Right.
But it was very similar, where you could go up against numerous enemies at once, and you had to climb leagues and gain money from doing so, and you get different rankings based on how quickly you can do them or meeting certain criteria. I'd say the weakest part of the game is actually the story. It's not very good.
Oh, right.
For an RGG like a Dragon game, it's not fantastic. It's very run of the mill. It's very much a you're a pirate. Go and do pirate things. Oh, you've got a
Right.
bunch of people trying to screw you over. Okay, this is very piratey. In the world of pirates, nobody is like wanting to side with anyone, and everyone's trying to screw
Right.
each other over, and they're all looking for a mythical treasure that apparently is lost for 200 years, and it's very cliched, very sort of by the by, and
Right.
the only thing that sort of makes it palatable is the relationship between the two main characters, which is Goro Majima and a small child whose name has just completely eluded me at the moment. But he's the one
Right.
who originally rescues you from a deserted island. And
Oh my
actually,
goodness.
the relationship you have with your crewmates as well is actually quite enjoyable. But it's not the best in terms of story writing and all that. It's
Right.
very weak, in fact. For a side story, it's fine, but it's not the best. But the combat was and the ship combat was basically what kept me playing on through it. But now that I've completed the main story, I feel no need to want to go back and play it. So
Right.
it's not a terrible game. It's just not an enjoyable one. Don't use it as your first excuse to go and play a like a dragon game. None of the story elements will make any sense to you. You could go and play it because it's quite standalone in that respect, but I just don't feel you're going to enjoy it as when it comes to the rest of the series because some of it has real stakes, like
Right.
based on obviously what's happened before. But the game did finally get me in the post-credit sequence. There is something that happens that I won't reveal, obviously, but it got me, and that's always what RGG do best. And
Excellent.
The side content was not too bad in this one as well. It could have been worse, but yeah. Final thoughts on Like a Dragon, because I won't talk about it much anymore until I start playing all the rest of the series. This is probably a solid 7 out of 10, maybe 8 out of 10. Or
Nice.
if we're going by the rapid review scale, it's a 3.5.
Yep.
3.5 out of
Nice.
5, which is, it's probably not going to make the Game of the Year list, but it's still, I'm glad I played it because it's still, fundamentally, if this is a weak entry, it's still strong by comparison to the rest of the other games that seem to be coming out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it could have been worse, but yeah. Looks nice. That engine that they use, the Dragon engine, is still, whilst it is aging, is still brilliant. Still very, very nice.
Yeah. Well, that's good. It's very good.
Yeah. So
I'm out. If anyone wants to redeem another